Okay. So the inside has been updated nicely. What do we know about the house? Is this a flip?
Yeah,
most likely, yes.
Because the agent is the owner.
The seller is the agent herself. I think they got it last year in June or July. We saw the previous pictures of this home.
Mm-hmm.
It was like tiles and like they repainted the whole stuff. They changed the floors.
They changed all the appliances.
I think either this wall or this wall. I think most likely this wall was extended till here. They shortened the wall.
Okay.
Yeah, they changed the appliances. They repainted everything like this.
Right.
So we're assuming it's a flip.
Okay. And she's been here for...
It's like a year and 4 months.
Okay, so she's going to have to pay capital gains on this.
That's going to be huge.
Yeah, it is.
Like the profit profits.
As we go through, the reason why I ask is sometimes if a property is trashed, then it can be because it was trashed by meth heads. And while you can make a meth property pretty, if you don't decontaminate it, you're buying a meth house. So one of the things I look for, well, there's 4 things I look for in a meth house. And the reason I can give you this list is because I was actually in the meth remediation business from about 2008 to 2016. So there's 4 things you look for. First is a property that's small, old, foreclosed apartment or a rental. Basically, they need either low rent or better off no rent, or they don't pay the rent. Second is a property that smells like cat urine.
Don't know what that is. We don't have a cat.
Yeah. And the reason for that, I talked to a friend of mine who, if there's a crime, he's done it twice. I met him in one of those self-help seminars, and I said, why do they smell like urine? He says, well, meth smells like urine, and sometimes you don't make it to the bathroom.
Wow.
So there's that. The third is what I call signs of anger, which is damaged doors and damaged door frames, and sometimes damaged sheetrock. But I asked him why. And he says, well, if you come down off your high and there's no more dope, then you get angry and you start punching things. So, and then there's the last one that I've forgotten. What is that? Trashed. A property that is trashed, or one that used to be trashed and now it's been spiffed up for the same set of reasons. So what we're going to do as we go around, I'm going to be paying special attention to the doors and door frames. If they are either brand new or if they show that they've been kicked in, then that will be more of a reason for me to recommend a meth test to you.
Cool.
All right.
Are you going to start from the outside?
Yeah, we'll start on the outside. So this kind of thing, you see how these guys are rotted,
Right.
corroded.
Right.
I'm going to take a picture to prove I saw that. There will be bigger fish to fry than that on this house. And they don't meet code because a child could fall through them, but you know, this home is going to grandfather, especially out here. So do you guys have kids?
We are expecting a kid next year.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Congrats. So I'm just going to write in the handrails are corroded. And this is
a concern? Like,
not until they get to the point that, no, this is really, I mean, there's mountains and there's molehills, and this is a molehill. Not till they get to the point where, you know, they get rickety and
yeah, right. They're coming off from their bases.
yeah, when they become unsafe. But I'm going to write it in. Corroded handrails. And this is why I like to have you here,
Okay.
because corroded handrails doesn't mean anything unless you're here. Okay, so this guy here
Right.
is, this is your secondary, your sprinkler box, and this is going to be secondary water, meaning ditch water.
Okay.
You don't want to drink this stuff. It comes, well, that's interesting. That shouldn't have worked. So,
Okay, so they have a note in their seller's disclosure that the valve for the sprinkler system doesn't work. That's what they said, so they hand watered the lawn.
okay.
So maybe that's why they activated it?
Yeah, so this is actually house water.
House water?
Yeah, that they're bringing out and then feeding into your sprinkler system, and you can tell by the grass that it's not healthy.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're hand watering.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that means your sprinkler system,
Yeah, they said that it needs a new valve. That's what they said.
well, it sounds like it needs a whole lot more than that.
Okay.
They gave up on it. They changed the source of the water,
Okay.
and that's going to be a problem because once Lehigh City delivers you, so there's house water and then there's grass water, and the grass water is the secondary water. Like I say, that comes straight from a ditch, and it's not healthy to drink. But once they deliver the secondary water, they don't want you using their chlorinated water to water the grass because it's expensive for them. So they're going to make it really expensive for you to water the grass with drinking water.
But how would they know that I'm using, or if one is using the...
Because it's two different sources,
Okay.
two different systems. There's two pipes in the road.
Right.
And yeah, it's two totally different systems.
Okay.
And they'll have a meter, at least on your drinking water, and so the more water goes through that meter, the more you're going to be paying.
Okay.
So now, how am I going to write that in? We're sprinkling with drinking water, or
Is that why there's
Yeah.
no grass there because they can't reach?
Maybe.
yeah.
Another question is like, do you have any idea how much it might take to address this issue? Like to fix the sprinkler system, replace the valve? That's what they said, just the valve is out.
So what they might be meaning is that the valve at the street is not working. I have trouble believing that because it's not that hard to replace a valve. What they have chosen to do instead is to plumb up from the inside of the house, which means they got to drill a hole through the foundation, over to here, and then do the riser, etc. That's a lot of plumbing.
Okay, so, but they did not say anything about that they did anything to the plumbing in the seller's disclosure.
Yeah. The other problem is now that we've got a column of water here. You know, that's a foot of water inside a pipe that is going to freeze this winter. And once it freezes, that pipe can burst. I mean, it's galvanized, but it can still burst. And then you're flowing water all over the place, and hopefully that doesn't go into your basement. But even if it just flows that way, you're still paying a massive water bill.
Right.
Because water's flowing into the street now.
Right. Okay.
So that's probably what you hired me to find. We'll see what else we find, but that's not good. Now, how to fix that? What you're going to want to do, and it's difficult this time of year, is you're going to write a check to a plumber, but you've got to talk to the sellers, identify where they think the bad valve is here, hook things up.
That there's a bad valve here?
No, because that doesn't explain why we brought drinking water out here.
Okay.
And it's very difficult at this time of year because the secondary system is only charged from the middle of April to the middle of October. And so now that we're in November, almost December, the secondary system will be dry, and there's no way to verify that anything works unless you were to cross-connect your drinking water into your sprinkler system. And yeah, that's a bit of a mess. What you might want to do is just call a sprinkler guy, and you're not supposed to cross-connect, but if he did it for a minute, he could at least verify what works and what doesn't.
Like which valve doesn't work. Is
Right.
that what you mean?
Right. But for them to go to the lengths of bringing in house water out here, and I think what they actually did is they did a little hose that goes from here down to there, and then that's going to charge the system, all of which is really hokey. And it's also a cross connection, and I should probably spend a minute with you on what a cross connection is. If we had a house fire at this house here, the city would come, they'd hook up to your fire hydrant, wherever that is, and they'd suck water out of your drinking water system.
Right.
So what they don't want to do is suck water that's dirty into the drinking water system.
Okay.
So for example, if once water has been delivered into the sprinkler system, they consider that to be contaminated, and they don't want to suck that back out and try and fight a fire with it. They just don't want bad water in their drinking water system.
Right.
And that's what a cross connection is.
Okay.
If you had a hose in a swimming pool, for example, that would also be a cross connection.
Right. Makes sense.
And so your sprinkler guy would actually have to cause a cross connection temporarily in order to see what's going on.
Okay.
Isn't this fun? Now, drainage. I've been called the drainage Nazi before, but you know, most of us have been in a home where the basement was flooded at least once. And the reason for that is because there's water near the foundation. So this guy here and all others, you're going to want to hook up a drain tube and run it out to where you're standing.
Okay. So like extend it. Right.
Right. So what I'm going to write in is drainage toward the foundation.
And is this a concrete foundation? Yeah.
Yes.
Is that common for most houses?
Yes, concrete is what you want. Maybe 1 or 2% of the time you'll get a block foundation. But and then in the really old homes you'll get rock and mortar or brick and mortar.
Okay.
But thank goodness that doesn't happen very often. Okay, is this a gate here?
No,
No.
we have to go to
All right, we'll go the other way then. So this is your gas meter here.
Right.
You should never need to deal with that. You can see the concrete cracking on your porch here.
Right. You mean like this?
Yeah, and it looks like that was probably a different pour. So structurally, I mean, it looks bad, but structurally, not a problem.
I mean, like if we painted it, then it's probably.
Yeah, plastered it. Yeah, you can see how it's definitely a different pour going on this side. Now this is what I call a pyramid crack. You see it's got a crack on this side and it goes back up again. This one has actually fallen out. And you see similar things going on down here. Structurally, that's not a problem either, but it looks bad. And
Why
then,
did it happen? Just natural force off.
yeah, they didn't vibrate the concrete well enough when they poured it. And again, we need to get water away from the foundation.
Okay.
All right. You see the gap going here. You've got two different structures. You got the house and then you got the steps.
Right.
And so for them to move differently is not a surprise.
Okay. Is this any concern? Like,
You'll want to just seal that
with tape?
so you don't expanding foam
Okay.
or anything to keep the wasps out.
Okay, right.
It's interesting that we've got a doorbell here because we didn't have a doorbell on the front of the house.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
Don't know why.
Yeah. And same thing here, you want to keep the critters out, the wasps, and in this case even the mice. Mice could climb up here and get into there. Okay, well that's unusual.
It works or not?
Open neutral. So here's what open neutral means. You've got your hot wire and neutral and ground,
Right.
and you should be wired like this.
Right.
You don't have a neutral connection.
Okay.
So your circuit is going from hot to ground.
Okay.
You-
That's weird. That's a short circuit.
yeah.
So if I plugged anything there, it would instantly blow.
Not necessarily. A ground is kind of a backup neutral, but I mean, if there's anything going on with what you're plugging in, now you become the circuit,
Oh.
and you know that's not awesome.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah.
So
It's gonna trip the fuse, like if I were to put an appliance in, for sure.
I am going to write in, and the open neutral directly for me isn't the biggest issue. For me, the biggest issue is apparently we had an idiot that did the electrical wiring. So we'll see how much that is the case
Inside.
elsewhere. Yeah. Back in the 80s, people didn't have money for a down, just like today. And so quite often contractors would allow them to do what was called sweat equity, which basically means they do something, either the painting or the plumbing or the wiring or the framing or whatever. A lot of people chose to do their own electrical.
And that's what happened, maybe.
Yes,
Same with this one as well? Most likely, yes.
yes, yes. So these fence posts got rickety, and you see rather than replace them, they reinforced them.
Right.
And I would have rather that they replaced them. Looks like this all faces that way, which means the fence belongs to those guys.
Okay. So we have no say in this.
Right. Now your AC unit, you see how it's dinged in 1,000 locations?
Ding.
Yeah, you,
Right. Yeah, I can see it.
yeah, you got these guys here.
Heat sinks, yeah.
And this is how easy it is to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
But when and these are called fins.
Right.
When that happens, it's harder for air to move through the unit.
Right.
And that's damaged enough that I think I'm going to recommend that you replace that.
Okay. I think it was replaced back in February,
The fan.
the fan.
Well, the fan was. Okay.
So the whole unit is not the fan is just this unit?
Yeah, the fan is just this guy inside. And so the fins also need to be addressed.
But can we still like...
Oh yeah. So what's going on here is this is going to just affect your efficiency.
Okay.
So instead of having, if you were efficient, maybe you're paying, let's say, $100 per month.
Now you're paying 150.
Right. Yeah, and it wouldn't be that dramatic. Maybe it'd be more like 120, 130. But
How expensive is it?
for the fins, pre-COVID, I would say maybe a couple $100. Now it might be double that, or 5 or something. You'll have to get a real number.
So we can just replace the fin and be fine with it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You go.
Okay.
Sure.
The worst of it is generally on the outside, and we probably, and you know that we probably also are going to have electrical issues. I'm expecting that will be the majority of what you see on the report. So I think you've seen the majority.